As we listen to the exchange between Pilate and Jesus today, they're using the same words, but it's almost like they're speaking a different language. As Pilate speaks of Jesus being a king, it's clear that his understanding of kingship is about power, control, prestige. And if we're honest with ourselves, that's about how most of us look at the idea of kingship. But when Jesus speaks about kingship, he's talking about something radically different. He talks about purpose and truth. And what are the truths that are being revealed to us today through the readings? One is that Jesus has dominion. That's clear. But it's not a dominion of power and authority, but rather of service, of why he came. This is the reason I came. And ultimately, what is the purpose of why Jesus came? It is to free us from sin. We have to recognize that we are sinners. We live in a world that so much wants to reject that idea. Jesus did not come because we were good, nor did he come in spite of our sins. He came because we are sinners. He came to call the sinner and not the righteous. And ultimately, why is this important? Because once we can accept that we are sinners and we are in need of Jesus, because if we do not accept our sinfulness, then we don't need Jesus in our lives. It really is that simple. But once we accept that we are sinners, that we need Jesus to come to heal us, it is there that we are able to be made priests of this kingdom that lead us to true worship, praise, and thanksgiving. Because ultimately, Jesus' purpose was to lead us to truth. Because Jesus was very clear, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And what we have to realize in that is that truth is real, objective, and unchanging. Truth is not about how I want to see the world, who I think I am. Truth is not determined by the individual or even by a society. And the reality is, the truth comes through Christ and through Christ alone. And so if we come to disagree with what the scriptures teach or what the church teaches, it's simple. We're wrong. And I know that's an uncomfortable thing for people to hear in this day and age. But it's the reality. Because as Christians, we don't believe the truth is simply a set of ideas or a way of looking at the world or a way of interpreting what is happening. The truth is a relationship. And it is a relationship with a particular person. And Jesus came ultimately to set us free from sin and from the domination it has in our lives, in order to help us to come to grasp the reality of what truth really is, and to be able to begin to live that in our lives. As we come to contemplate what that should mean in the life that we are living, calls us to a radical way of looking at the world through the eyes of Jesus. For Jesus must have dominion in our lives. Again, not one of authority and power, but rather of leading us to the truth, leading us to a life that is centered in Him in order to live that life that leads us to the Father. Because that's all that Jesus cares about, is bringing us to the Father. And that is only possible if we're open to hearing His voice in our lives. And the reality we must recognize is it's not a question of whether Jesus is speaking to us or not. Jesus is talking to you every single moment of your life. If you don't hear Him, the problem isn't Jesus. The problem is us. We're simply not paying attention. We're choosing not to hear Him. We're choosing not to pay attention. Because Jesus is talking to you. He is with you. He will never abandon or forsake you. That is His promise to us. Because that is what relationship is ultimately about. So the question then comes down to is really two. Will we truly allow Jesus to have dominion in our lives? Are we truly willing to listen to His voice?